Hi, this is Angela, and I'm sharing today a topic around what lifts us up. So I've been looking at connecting to the heart, and the teachings that I share in Dance for Joy come from a lot of different cultures from all different times. And the common piece is, how do we lift ourselves up, especially when society might be bringing you down, or when the body is learning how to lift up in the force of gravity. So in Dance for Joy, which we're hosting in Sydney live, but we also have it online, and I'll have a link in the description for you to find out more about Dance for Joy. In Dance for Joy, we celebrate the heart. We celebrate the heart in how it expresses through world dance, Sufi movement, and through connection exercises. So we have people interacting to feel that. So the most important way to start feeling that connection to your heart is in relation to our own bodies. So some of the previous videos I've been sharing are, how do we lift our heart when we're in relation to other parts of the body? And I suggest in one of my videos that basically we can lift our heart from any place in the universe. We can imagine that I'm lifting my heart up to the universe, or that I'm lifting my heart from a place in the body. And today I wanted to look at a specific tool that we used to use when we were looking at how do we lift our heart from the space between the feet. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of movement on the floor to demonstrate that connection of our heart center in relation to the feet, and why that space between the feet is an incredible resource to look at our bodies in a different way, and to look at how we celebrate the heart in relationship to what supports us from earth. So in world dance, we're always looking at lifting the heart to celebrate the heavens. And you can even just feel that when you open your arms, you're lifting up to the heavens. Now, the heavens can be anything. Back in other cultures, they used to look at the heavens as a specific way of thinking about the heavens. Before they had perceptions of the sun being at the center of the universe, they still worshiped the sun. Or they might have had a story about the heavens. So as we lift up to the heavens, you can bring any story to that. It can be the divine, it can be just the feeling of opening up to the sky. But when we're lifting up to the heavens, we're also being supported from the earth to lift at all. Where do we lift from? If we're lifting up to something, we've got to lift from something. We've got to have some sort of foundation or base that allows our heart to lift from. And what I've noticed is that a lot of our society, we tend to kind of be slumped and be a bit sort of lazy in the way we lift ourselves. And we blame it on sitting in a chair, or we blame it on computers. But actually, maybe it's because we're not actually feeling that joy of being able to lift up to the heavens, and we're not tapping into the resource of the earth that gives us that foundation to lift our heart away from and to drop the heart back into the earth. So you may know that I have a love and a passion for Middle Eastern dance, aka belly dance. But also, if we look at African hip hop, Brazilian, Afro-Brazilian dance, they all have a lift of the heart and a drop. And where are they lifting from? And what are they dropping back into? It's the earth. So I'm going to go straight into a demonstration of the space between the feet. And when I discovered this space, it actually was so vast that today's little video is just going to give you a little taster of it. And I really recommend, if you want to explore how do we lift ourselves up, how do we lift our heart up, the space between the feet is an enormous resource that can help you feel a natural lift in your heart without having to think about it. So I'll demonstrate that space between the feet by moving back a little bit and just taking the computer down a little bit here. So you can see here we've got that space between the feet. So the camera is not going to do justice to it. But if you want to do this along with me, you can just take a chance to get on the floor. If you're on a chair, you can try reaching as well, because you'll still get that connection. But we're just going to explore with your hand that space between the feet. Now, when you even just do that, explore that space between the feet, it can be like nothing's there. You can feel with the hand that, what am I doing? I'm actually not doing anything. So we want to actually give some story or feeling to this space between the feet. So if you want, you can just start to imagine that when you're going into that space between your feet, that you're connecting to the earth. So that's just one story. There can be a number of stories in that space between the feet. So as you're taking your hand down into the space between the feet, you can imagine that from your hand, you're actually connecting down into the earth. So if you're in a house or a building, with your hand in that space, think about how you're moving your imagination through that touch, down through the layers of the building, of the house, of the floor, down, down, down into the earth. And from that, you can begin to imagine that the space between your feet is actually supported by many, many layers of earth, of construction, of other elements of the land underneath your hand. So you can even take this further and further into a contemplation. With that hand in the space between your feet, you can begin to sense or feel how many layers of the earth are below you and below your hand and below that space between the feet. So our imaginations can go in a lot of places, but feeling and sensing with your body and through the touch of the hand, that earth and the many layers below your hand, below that space between the feet, can bring another sense of the space that supports the body, that provides that foundation for the body and that space between the feet. And then if you feel or sense anything there, you can also have a relationship with the space below the hand. So there's lots of things that you can experience by just feeling into the different layers below your feet, below that space. But for now, we're going to come back to the space between your feet, and you can just start to feel that shape. So I'm taking both of my hands to the inside edge of the feet, and between the hands, I'm bringing some imagination and energy. So in Qigong, what we do is we feel that energy ball, but you don't even have to get that complicated. You can just start to feel that shape of the space between your feet. And we used to just bring it up and feel it, how that space between the feet continued all the way up the body above the head. So the whole movement here of feeling that space between the feet and seeing how that space is actually a channel that supports that center part of us and goes up and beyond the head, you can start to feel that connection of the space between the feet and how it provides an energy and a space where the center part of your body, your organs, your pelvic floor, your chest, your heart center, your face, your crown, they all can lift away from and fall back into that space that's between the feet. Now, one of the things that supports giving a really clear space is the hands and getting real clarity in the hands. So a lot in dance, what we do is we use our body to define space, to define shape. And also in Qigong and energy work, we really use the direction and the shape of the hands to relate to space. So we're not relating to space in a passive way. We're an active participant in the space. And this is where dance and movement and all the world movement forms from all centuries have started to see that our relationship to how we relate to our feelings in the body, how we relate to the space and the environment, when we use dance and movement, we're an active participant. We're not passive. And so this is where I'd just like to connect back to how are we blaming computers or sitting on a chair or using that as an story or an excuse for that slump in our bodies, for that feeling of society bringing you down or gravity bringing you down or age bringing you down. All these things that we say that actually have an impact on our body. What movement and dance does is say, how can I have a relationship to the space and change the nature of that space, bring an energy to that space, bring an aliveness to that space. So even just the relationship to the space between the feet and feeling how it can be different can bring a different quality to that way we lift and the way we feel that inside channel of energy in the body. So now I'm going to bring us to standing and share how in the world dance, this relationship between that space between the feet starts to work as a place for us to rebound from. So right now I'm on my sit bones and I'm using that sit bone as well as a place to rebound from. So it's a different space, a different part of the body for the heart to lift from. And there's many parts of the body that the heart can lift on. In dance, we lift off the center and back into the center. But sometimes we're also working with a 360-degree sphere around our body where the heart can lift in any direction from that sphere. Here I'm talking about a very specific way that we're moving and lifting our heart in relationship to the earth and the space between the feet. And when we're standing, I'll just share how we use this in the world dance to get a different sense of feeling what lifts us up and where are we lifting from. So I'm just going to take the computer here and put a little bit of background music on. So it's something to see how with our world dance, we're looking at a different way of relating to the lift of the heart and to the movements that you might see in a lot of world music where we're feeling the heart lift and drop. In the Mid-Eastern dances, we used to practice a lot of lifting and lifting. And when you're starting those movements, it can feel weird. It's like, oh, I got to lift this thing. So where are we lifting from? And when I started to connect to that space between the feet as a place that I was lifting from, it became a completely different movement. So I'm just taking the hands now to the space between my feet and I'm making a connection to that space through my fingertips. And then just feeling how it comes up the center part of my body to the chest. and up above my head. And then I'm going to bring a hand to that heart center and just feeling my heart center lift and drop into that space between the feet. So if I'm feeling that heart center lift, it's reaching away from the space between the feet. And then if I let the heart center drop, it's sinking into that space between the feet. So I'm just closing my eyes to get more of an internal feeling of the heart lifting away from the space of the feet and dropping down, up, lifting away from the space and dropping down. And so in dance, we always play with this idea of what goes up must come down. It's one of those laws, right? So the heart center can lift up to the heavens and drop down to the earth. So when it comes up, it's lifting up to the heavens or away from the earth, or when it's dropping, it's sinking into the earth. So there's many ways to play with that up and down, up and down. And in a lot of the dances, we actually can do a walk with the movement. But today I want to just focus on that feeling of ease, that feeling of that heart being able to lift and sink back into that space between the feet as a really powerful tool to have movement that helps you to lift easily. So we're not thinking I have to lift like this. We're not thinking I have to stop being hunched over and I have to pull my shoulders back. But we're feeling that heart center just naturally lift from the floor, from the space between the feet, and we're allowing it to sink back. And it can change the whole quality of how you look at the center of the chest, because you're not forcing it to do movement. You're just allowing it to feel a lift and a drop. And it becomes kind of funky as well. A lot of the Mideastern dances have a real sort of juicy, funky feeling. The video I did last week was how we allow the heart center by relaxing our solar plexus. We allow the heart center just rebound into a really juicy, soft solar plexus. And the space between the feet is what actually creates that foundation and platform, a flat surface, for the juiciness of the organs to bounce and rebound into. So a couple of the other videos I'll be doing will be looking at how we include different pelvic floors or different diaphragms in the body. And one of the things we're going to look at is how that space between the feet can start to help energize that whole inner channel of the body, which supports us in all of our activities in life, in all of the things that we do to help our emotions, to release emotions, to, if you're one of those empathic people and you pick up a lot of things, to not allow the things to affect your emotions so much, because there's a softness and an ability to lift and let go, to rebound with the energy. What happens is with our modern movement techniques and with our sedentary lifestyle, we start to bring sort of structure to the body that's not natural, that's trying to be function-based versus allowing things to move through the body. And the diaphragms of the body and the space between the feet are where we can allow things to be moved into the body and to let go. If you think about the pelvic floor diaphragm, a lot of it has to learn how to release. So what happens with our culture and our typical ways of movement is that we learn how to hold and freeze. And we're not very good at letting things go. So the world dance celebrates that all the time. A lot of the movements are about really rebounding into the earth and opening up to the heavens. And in Dance for Joy, we're going to be doing some of those movements, not with this talking here, but with the music and feeling into your body more about how your heart wants to experience itself. One of the gifts of Dance for Joy and World Dance is that your heart will find the music or the relationship to the music and the world dance in its own way. There's no right or wrong way to do Dance for Joy. We're looking at more how does the heart react and feel when it hears different music. And with the Sufi movement, we're really just allowing yourself to feel the energy of your heart center. The Sufis have a range of different movements. The ones that I have are really about softening your own energy to allow rapid connection to that heart center. So if you want to join us in the Dance for Joy, I've put the link in the show notes. We're going to be having live workshops in Sydney in October and November. And also we have online class as well, which you can book through the link in the description as well. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to dance with you soon.